Okay, I think we are live. If we are, and you can hear me all right, let me know. Tell me in the chat, because I'm never sure. And while you're at it, let me know where in the world you're viewing this chat from, this live stream. I would like to see how far we can reach with this information. I have clients all over the world. I'd say the majority are in the US and the UK, but every continent but Antarctica I've worked with people on, and that's inspiring. So let me know where you're from. Let me know if you can hear me. We've got a little latency on the stream today, but I'm excited to get to all your questions. I hope you brought some good ones. Have an interesting conversation today. All right, looks like people can hear me. We've got Ali from Turkey, got Marcus from Brazil. Very cool. I'd like to go to South America at some point, probably get to Central America some more first. I would like to live in probably Costa Rica or Guatemala for a while. I think that would be really cool. We got Yash from New Delhi, India. Zulkarnain. Jeff from Jakarta, Indonesia. We haven't even had a single person from the US yet. These live streams seem to get more international than most of my clients. That's cool. Welcome, everybody. As you like, just go ahead and type in whatever you'd like to talk about today. If you have your story, you can share it briefly. If you have questions that you've had along your own journey, go ahead and share that, and we'll get to the answers. We got Mr. D from the Netherlands, Ayaz from Montreal, Canada, Owain from Wales in the UK. Oh, Owen, my apologies. Siva from India. Not sure how to pronounce your town. Very cool. Well, I'm from Portland, Oregon, here in the US in the Pacific Northwest, and lived here pretty much all my life, except for some brief periods. 6 months in New Zealand. That was fun. Anyone from New Zealand in the stream today? Any Kiwis? All right, we got our first question from Shamel. It says, "Hey Noah, I edged and I'm on day 10. I have death grip and I am numb in the shaft. My sensitivity in my penis isn't as sensitive. How far have I pushed myself back?" So that question is one I get a lot. I had a slip, I had a relapse. How much of my progress did I lose? And it's hard to quantify exactly, but I can tell you that even occasional use, especially of pornography, not necessarily of porn-free masturbation, but once you've developed any sort of porn-induced sexual dysfunction or desensitization or addiction, even occasional use, every 10 days or even every couple of months, every once or twice a year, that's still going to be significantly damaging and hold you back from truly recovering and reaching a new normal where your brain has fully realized, so to speak, that pornography is no longer a part of your life and fully has not so much completely let go of that, because that wiring and that conditioning will always be there dormant, but it's become as dormant as possible. And as far as your death grip and lack of sensitivity goes, so edging and using your former masturbation techniques will be bad for that. It's certainly not better to edge and not have an orgasm than it is just to masturbate without porn and have an orgasm. So if you are going to use self-sexual touch, then make sure it's gentle, lubricated, porn-free masturbation with realistic fantasy, and not any sort of visual media, and not your former masturbation techniques. Question from Marcus. Is there new info correlating morning wood with improvement in our ED situation? In my specific case, I only get erections in the middle of the night, never in the morning. Is that good? So morning wood, kind of a misnomer. Not everyone necessarily gets quote unquote morning wood. Every man should get nocturnal erections It's part of the body's natural process of keeping the penis healthy by making sure there's blood flow through there on a consistent basis. And that's why it's one of the tests that they will do at the doctor's office if you come in with complaints of ED, is they'll have you sleep with a ring basically around your penis so that it can measure if you get an erection overnight. But not everyone has that still when they wake up in the morning. So if you've never had morning wood much in your life, even before you started using porn or developed porn problems, then you shouldn't expect to get it now. Nocturnal erections is good enough. And yes, most people do notice that those get stronger and more frequent and more noticeable as they recover. And some people even track it pretty obsessively, and they can see over time the changes in their morning wood, and that can correlate with their recovery. Yeah. Andrew, you've been struggling really bad lately. You went down a 90-day streak that ended in late November. Haven't made it past 9 days since with multiple binges. You kind of feel hopeless. I understand how it goes. Part of my story was relapse. And for the first about 8 months, I was clean. I was on the pink cloud for part of that. The pink cloud, for any of you who don't know, is an addiction term, and it refers to that period after you've been sober for a little bit, or you just started being sober and you feel really great. You're on cloud 9 and you feel like you're porn free for life, or alcohol free for life, or whatever your addiction is, and that you're going to always be able to handle this, but then you're not prepared for when things get tough again. And so things got tough again for me, and I went through my own relapse period, back in 2014, bleeding into 2015. And I felt pretty hopeless a lot of that time. Like, am I ever going to be able to get control of my behavior? And I talk with people all the time who feel those same feelings. And it is possible, but not if you just keep doing the same things that you have been doing. If you want different results, you have to be willing to take different actions. And that means, for most of us, finding the right guidance, the right help, the right support in your own life. And so if you think I'm the right person for that, then definitely send me an email and start working with me. Noah@coachchurch.com. Hi, did NoFap cure your depression? If you're asking me, I didn't really have so much clinical level of depression. I've got depressed sometimes, certainly low energy sometimes, social anxiety. All those things definitely improved. More motivation, more ambition. A lot of us feel that after long enough porn free, even if we just started for getting our erections back, or one of the more poignant, potent symptoms that comes up when at the more extreme end of pornography usage. And we don't realize that pornography had a bunch of other deleterious effects on us as well. And we only start to realize that after we're clean for long enough and we start to heal. And those changes can be even better than the ones that we expected and hoped for. Andrew from Indiana, cool, okay. We got at least one more person from the US. Hello, Mr. Noski, it's good to see you here. Hanai says, hi, I am 30 days, how to check reboot. If you're asking how to check your progress along the reboot, if you're recovering from a porn-induced sexual dysfunction like PIED, then the answer is you shouldn't be checking very often. One way that people do check sometimes is by masturbating without any sort of visual stimulus or any fantasy. It's a test that some people do that will show them if they have recovered sensitivity enough to be able and capable of real sex. And if you can masturbate just to sensation alone, no fantasy, no visual stimulus, and maintain your arousal and reach orgasm, then you're recovered enough physically to have sex. You might still need a period of rewiring, practicing intimacy, conditioning yourself to the touch of a real human being, and you might still need to work through some anxiety, but physically you will be rebooted enough to have real sex. So if that's what you're asking, that's your answer. I don't recommend, give yourself time between tests. So other signs that you can look for are just more subjective, qualitative desire for people in your life, more morning wood, nocturnal erections, random erections, things like that. All right, got a lot of questions to catch up on. I think that I enabled Super Chat. Let me know if you see that option. I've never used it before, but Super Chat is a way for people to like pay $1 or whatever, and then your question gets highlighted. And so if you'd like to, and you really want to make sure that your question is answered, you can use that if the option is there. But let me know if the option is there. Owen says he's also struggling. Gives solidarity to everyone here. Good. Like, we're not alone in this. That's something that I try to accomplish this whole last 5-6 years, letting people know that you're not alone. My problem's also taken social media addiction. I'm going cold turkey from today. I'm trying freedom as a blocker. No questions as yet, just here for support. Cool. Yeah, social media addiction or video game addiction, just general internet addiction, it's can all be part of the same web. And pornography addiction is in some sense a subset of sexual addiction, but it's also a subset of just technology or internet addiction. So it combines those both. And many of us don't just use porn in the way that we use porn, an emotional crutch sort of way, as an escapism, as a way of avoiding life, avoiding problems, not feeling difficult emotions. For most of us here, pornography is the primary way that we do that, but many of us have secondary ways too. Social media, video games, food binging, substances, etc. From Russia, cool. Stephen asks how to deal with PIED while engaged. When I can just give up sexual. I think he means to say when I can't just give up sexual activity, cold turkey. Well, I would definitely advise having an open communication policy with your fiance. I don't know if she knows about your journey, what you're going through, but I think it will very much help to have that open conversation with her about what all this means, what to expect during this journey, how to best help you heal, how you can best help her handle this emotionally. And that will help more than anything. But if you're still sexually active right now, it's just not working great, then, and you don't want to stop that, then what I would recommend is just not forcing orgasm if it doesn't feel easy and natural, not having orgasm without a full erection, and not needing to have orgasm every time you have sex. So that can be called Karezza sex, so that's something more specific than just sex without orgasm, but look it up, Karezza. So you can still enjoy sex, but just without orgasm, and you might find that that has a better outcome for you, and that it allows you to continue to heal and resensitize and recover if you find that orgasm sets you back. DG Dow asks, would you recommend doing a reboot and taking on new life challenges, such as a strict diet, calorie counting, workout every day, quit cigarettes, quit sugar, or vegan, or is it a recipe for relapsing? It really depends on the individual. For some people, it can help actually if they can get excited about a lot of different changes in their lives, as long as it still remains manageable and they're still enjoying pursuing these changes. But for some people, it can get overwhelming trying to tackle all these different things at once. And you have to just be introspective and be honest with yourself. You can experiment with all these changes if you're excited about them and you're ready for them at the same time. But if it all falls apart, then you might try focusing on one or two at a time. Pick the most important, or maybe the most important and the least important, and pair them together, or the hardest and the easiest. Experiment with it. It's certainly possible to make a bunch of different big life changes all at once. I've seen people do it, and I've seen people do it sustainably. But if you're not one of those people, don't feel bad about that. It's just we all work differently. We all have different needs, different strengths. So experiment with yourself. But quitting cigarettes sounds like a great idea. Going vegan sounds like a great idea. Been vegan 10 years. Love it. Calorie counting, I don't like calorie counting. I think it leads to disordered eating, but I wouldn't say that it leads to that in every case. And then working out, also going to be great for you. Aniket asks, I'm 25 days into NoFap. Tried this for the first time. Could see some cum while I was peeing. Happened to me twice during NoFap time. Is this normal? Yeah, some unexpected discharge is common when you're not used to going without orgasm and you go without for longer than you ever have or longer than you're used to. It's usually not something to worry about. Ayaz says 2020 is clean. Got wet dreams twice. Does that mean relapse? And aren't wet dreams a good sign? Never used to get it before. Wet dreams does not equal relapse. No. Relapse has to be a conscious choice or a waking choice anyway. And yeah, we can't necessarily control what happens when we're asleep, and we shouldn't necessarily try. And if you are getting them and you're not used to having them, then yeah, I would say that is a good sign. Yeah, I think I've experienced 2 in my lifetime, and both after I quit pornography. Some people it's pretty common, but some people hardly ever get them. Hi from the Netherlands. Hello. How and how long does it take to recover injured tissues? I am on day 341 of NoFap and very much recovered physically and mentally. Injured tissues, I imagine I would need some more details to really understand that question. I imagine you mean there was some damage to the penis due to over-masturbation, or perhaps your masturbation technique was prone or used death grip, but that's just speculation. And yeah, that's different in every case, and it's something that I'd recommend you go to a urologist about if you're concerned about it. It's been almost a year, and if you haven't seen the progress you would like to see, then that's what I would recommend. It's still definitely possible to see that progress, just with more time. I've seen it happen before. A year is long enough for most people to recover pretty much fully from porn-induced problems, but with more specific or potent problems like injured tissues or actual physical damage, it might take a bit longer. Hi from Berlin. Hello from America. Zulkarnain asks, how long after PIED will it take to get to a healthy sex life? Like I tell people all the time, most people see significant progress within 90 days and full recovery within a year, as long as you are able to remain completely porn-free, porn substitute-free. And it helps also to have that rewiring and that capacity to practice intimacy, condition yourself to real sex. But some people can recover to the point where they're having sex within a month. Some people it takes 2 years or more. Another question like that. Yash is about at 120 days, and the only problem he's facing is wet dreams. I know it's okay, but I would like to stop them and preserve my semen. I have PIED for reference. Thoughts? Yeah, I don't really have any magic tips to stop wet dreams. It can certainly help to avoid sexual fantasy or arousal before you go to sleep. That tends to cause it to happen more frequently if you're fantasizing or arousing yourself at all before you go to sleep. So avoid that if you're concerned about it. It can also help to develop more lucid dreaming skills, and you can look up how to do that online. There are books about it. Lucid dreaming just means you're more conscious and aware that you are in a dream when you are dreaming, and more capable of waking yourself up. So if you train yourself to do that and you're having a sexual dream, you can potentially, theoretically, make the choice to wake yourself up and stop that wet dream from happening. But again, they're not generally a big deal. A question I don't understand from Nicholas R. I have been free from porn for 26 days, and the only relapses I have are by poor decisions. Yeah, I'm considering removing Pluck Eye from my CPU because it makes HW homework inconvenient. I don't know what Pluck Eye is, so I can't answer that. Nicholas R. recommends Brene Brown vulnerability talks for you guys in relationships. Yeah, definitely look up her TED Talks, Brene Brown, on shame and vulnerability. Powerful stuff. Greetings from Poland from Matthew. Hello, Matthew. Do you think NoFap will heal me from weird fetishes? Or will I like doing that crazy stuff all my life? So this is a very common question I get, and it depends on the individual. I'm definitely not going to guarantee that NoFap will change your sexual template or take away the fetishes that you have a desire for. But it can happen, and that's a controversial statement among some circles, but I've seen it happen time and time again. For the people who have had those specific kinks or fetishes for pretty much their entire life or until from the time of their sexual awakening, they're not going to go away, pretty much guaranteed. But for those guys who developed them over years of consistent pornography use because of escalation, it is possible for them to either recede into the background or disappear entirely after you've been porn-free for long enough and recovered and rewired. And otherwise, for some people who are in that same position, it might not disappear. They might still have those desires and those interests, but they should not take center stage. They shouldn't be necessary for arousal and a satisfying sexual experience. Torres asks, do I believe that there could be irreparable damage from viewing? For example, I reached the stage when it doesn't even excite me. No videos are exciting anymore. If I abstain for 2 to 3 months, then I can have a libido. But after 1 or 2 relapses, I again have a limp penis. I'm again impotent after only 1 or 2 relapses. I'll address what you said there. You say some more, but irreparable damage. It's possible when you have physical damage, such as peyronie's or nerve damage or something like that due to rough masturbation or unhealthy masturbation technique. But as far as the brain damage that we're talking about, the desensitization from pornography use that leads to porn-induced sexual dysfunctions, there is, in a sense, permanent damage because that conditioning for porn and that desensitization will always be there dormant even after recovery, and it will be very easy to bring that back to the surface and regain all of your old problems, even with only a limited number of relapses and use. So that's what you're experiencing here. After 2 to 3 months of abstaining, you find your libido coming back, but then you tank it all with the relapse. And having that, even that intermittent use once every few months is enough to prevent you from healing. So definitely get yourself out of that cycle. And if you need help, again, pursue personal coaching with me. But as far as irreparable damage just from that porn-induced neurological desensitization, no. Healing is always possible, and you can get back to the point where you can have functional, satisfying sex. And what's stopping you is those relapses every 2 or 3 months. Super chat is working. I just got one. All right. Hello, Noah. What is your advice to someone who wants to start a healthy sex life? I think I'm not addicted to porn now, but I have a desire for real relationships. I don't have a girlfriend, and random sex seems to be immoral. Yeah. Well, it really depends on your culture, your religion, your country. I think I have no idea what country you're from. But you know your culture better than I do and how dating and relationships work there. If you were living in the West, in like the US or the UK or somewhere like that, I would recommend that you simply pursue the things that you enjoy in life and do them in a group setting and meet people. Just go out into the world thinking you just want to have a good time. You want to make sure other people around you have a good time. You want to make social connections. You want to make friendships. And then when you feel a spark with somebody that you're attracted to, you think might be attracted to you, then pursue that. That's how I usually recommend that people pursue dating and pursuing real relationships, is because you want to find someone who has got some similar interests to you, who you have that vibe, that chemistry, that spark with in person. I usually don't recommend dating apps except for specific instances, just because that whole culture of dating apps and online dating can cause people to devalue each other, and it can be frustrating, and Find a lot of flaky people, and it's just really hard to find a connection online, I have found. Some people can make it work, but yeah, that's what I usually recommend. And you say random sex seems to be immoral. That's perfectly fine. You don't need to have or pursue casual sex in order to heal. You can find someone who cares about you and whom you care about in order to start rewiring and start exploring love and relationships. So you can definitely do it. And I do recommend honesty during that time. And that doesn't mean like first date, first meeting, you have to tell her, hey, just so you know, I have PIED, I'm a porn addict or whatever. But it does mean probably before you attempt sex that you have that conversation and that you tell her what you're going through and share the information that you've learned with her. And if you do it in an understandable, sort of casual way, and just offer her the choice to ask questions and choose for herself whether she wants to continue exploring intimacy with you, then usually that goes really well, and then you can have a supportive partner. All right, thanks for the super chat. My first super chat ever. Appreciate it. And let's see. Marcus says, vegan power? Oh, yeah. I don't have a very big bicep, but my mom weighs 85 pounds, so it's genetic. Do you think people with our addiction tendency can never engage in highly sexual behavior or fantasy? I feel sad to have to abandon mine, real life fantasies. That's a good question. And no, I don't think so. And I certainly hope not. Your future healthy, sustainable sex life might be different from how you've ever felt it or experienced it before, but it's not necessary to completely abandon your sexuality in order to heal. It might be very beneficial to give it a rest, to go on a sexual fast, like hard mode, for a period of time, whether that be 1 month or a year, like depending on you. That might be very beneficial, so you can get back in touch with the rest of your life and build a reliable foundation for yourself, and then start introducing sexuality and sexual pleasure on top of that, but making sure that it doesn't undermine your values and everything that you built up for yourself, your disciplines, your good habits, and your support systems. So always be aware of how you're using the pleasures in your life. Are you using them in order to escape your difficult emotions? Are you using them in order to avoid facing your problems? Are you allowing them to distract from your responsibilities and your commitments? If so, then see that as a red flag. But if you're using them to add to your life, to add joy and pleasure and excitement, and it's not detracting from your responsibilities and your commitments, then it can be very beneficial. And as for the type of sexual behavior or fantasy that you explore in real life, as long as it's with a partner who's enthusiastic about it and you don't let more extreme kinks or fetishes or specific things take over your sexual life and just keep them as like a side dish, then it can be sustainable and healthy. But if you start noticing yourself constantly pursuing novelty and more extreme experiences in real life, like many of us do in pornography, that's another red flag. Sniper Youth asks, if you slip during the 90 days, let's say day 55, would you say you need to start your 90-day streak again before PIED recovery? I know it's not a strict rule, but just want to know how slips affect me. Yeah, I got this question earlier, very similar. It's hard to quantify. Like one slip after 55 days doesn't necessarily set you back to zero. And at this point, it might be more beneficial for you to keep a calendar than a counter, because the counter, you set it back to zero. It's like telling yourself that all that work was for nothing and you're back at the beginning, which isn't really true. So it might be more productive for you to keep a calendar or a spreadsheet rather than a strict counter. Now, that intermittent use, like I was talking about before, is dangerous and not a cycle you want to get into. I made a video about this before called how reducing porn use can be harmful. You should check that one out. And in the video, I say that reducing your porn use comes with a lot of benefits. You will see some healing, but for someone who is addicted or has developed a sexual dysfunction, even occasional intermittent porn use is going to keep that problem alive and also make it more difficult to heal once you finally do leave it behind permanently, because now you've trained your brain to expect the reintroduction of pornography even after long periods of time abstinent. So it'll hold on to that wiring for porn and that conditioning for porn for longer. Mr. Noski, what if we cut off our arms so we don't masturbate? Sounds like that's an Old Testament stuff. Cut off your hands so it doesn't cause you to sin, or pluck out your eye. No, I wouldn't recommend that. But I can understand the impulse. Yeah. I've been married for almost 5 years, says Nico, and I can't shake it. Going vegan, trying to include God more. My wife barely wants sex and doesn't really want to ask me for sex. Yeah, many relationships get to that point, especially if you're struggling long term with leaving porn behind or struggling with sexual dysfunction. This problem can cause our partners to shut down to us because there's a lot of pain in the intimacy in your relationship, and pain associated with that is going to cause her probably to not really want to pursue it anymore. And also when she doesn't feel like she can trust you and trust your word, trust your values in your relationship, and doesn't feel fully in love with you, then she's probably not going to want to sleep with you. So you have a lot of work to do, it sounds like, in your relationship. First on yourself, finding out how to recover, be porn free, and then in courting your wife again and sort of dating again, getting to know each other again, and allowing her to slowly regain her trust in you over time. And if you can do that, then you can get back to a point where you're enjoying that intimacy again and enjoying each other and trusting each other. I've seen relationships get to a stronger point than they ever have been after recovery, but I've also seen them unable to recover from that damage that has been done. So it's possible, and you should have hope, but you got to put in the work. JJ says, hello, Noah. Is it a thing to recover a positive self-image towards your penis? I noticed that when I first recovered my erections, I was very pleased with my penis size for the first time. Yeah, I'd say if you have a negative self-image of your genitalia, then it's definitely going to hold you back from just enjoying your life and your sex life and dating and being able to relax and enjoy intimacy. So pornography is very toxic in that regard. It can fill our minds with all sorts of ideas of what a male sex organ should look like, when really what we're seeing in porn is far from the average, and it's often like shot and cut and edited in order to portray something that's not even really happening. And a lot of those performers are using pharmaceuticals in order to maintain their erections long enough to finish a scene. So don't look to pornography as the guideline for how a man should have sex or how a man's penis should function or look. So, and as you get away from pornography, hopefully that influence will fade. But yeah, a lot of guys these days, a lot of young people have self-esteem issues and self-confidence issues about their penises because of pornography. Saprisa says, Noah, there are porn images I can't get out of my head. There's this particular video I can't forget. Am I the only one with this problem? No, you're definitely not the only one with this problem. So adrenaline, when we experience something that promotes adrenaline in our system, also has a function of cementing that moment in our memory. This is why we can remember like scary things from our childhood very vividly, whereas like whole years of middle school, for example, I can barely remember anything. But I can remember the time when I was like lost on the beach and scared when I was 5 years old very clearly. And the same can be true of pornography. When we see pornography images, especially if they're especially exciting or shocking or novel, it gives us a shot of adrenaline, and that can cement that image in our memory for life. And that doesn't mean that it's always going to plague you consistently, but it's very normal to have those images pop back up into your mind, have flashbacks of that. As you get more and more space between you and your pornography use, more time recovering, more rewiring, more real sexual experiences and intimate experiences, those should fade a little bit and not bother you so much. But don't try to necessarily control your thoughts or make sure that those images don't pop up. We can't control that. If they're going to pop into our minds, they're going to pop into our minds. But we can choose not to give those thoughts, those images, our energy. Choose to focus on something else. Martin says, "Hi Noah, I have trouble deleting my porn collection. I feel bad about losing so much material that it took me time and effort to get. I really have a hard time making the decision to delete the files. Please, any thoughts or advice?" So in my book, one of the first steps in the 13 steps of recovery that I wrote in my book was to burn your bridges, which means deleting your collection, dismantling whatever systems you had in place to get you access to pornography. And I thought at the time that was an essential step early on. I no longer necessarily believe that, because I've had clients and spoken with people who held on to their collection for a while because they found that whenever they deleted it, they were possessed by an overwhelming need and obsession to rebuild that collection. And for them, sometimes it was beneficial to keep the collection, not to actively look at it, but just know that it was there until they had several months porn-free and they felt more confident in their porn-free life, more secure in that. And then they were able to get to a point where they felt better about deleting it and keeping it gone. So that might be a better approach for you. Your tendencies and your thoughts and your feelings about deleting it are very common, so you're definitely not alone in that. And it's not necessarily necessary to delete them now in order to start being porn free. If you can't bring yourself to do it, or once you delete them, you're possessed by that overwhelming need to rebuild, then put them all on a hard drive, put that hard drive in a drawer in the basement or something, and forget about it and just live your porn-free life, work on recovery, and then maybe at some point you'll feel ready to burn that damn hard drive into slag. Siddhartha, just wanted to say this. Hi Noah, great work, thank you very much. Ayaz asks if we stop getting morning woods and flatline. Yes, they generally do greatly reduce or stop happening. You will still get some nocturnal erections. They might not be as strong. It will still happen. You might not notice them, but it definitely can get a lot weaker during a flatline. Nicholas is 21 days clean. Good job, my friend. Keep going. Sniper Youth is in a long distance relationship. She messages me when she's in the mood, which gets me in the mood, but I'm trying to avoid PMO. Is it a bad idea to engage in the texts and get aroused during reboot? I wouldn't say it's a bad idea, but you have to know what you can handle. So if you can handle flirting through texts and getting yourself aroused and then not acting on that, not letting that lead you down the wrong path, then great. More power to you. It gets you more excited for when you actually do meet in person. If you can't handle that right now, then you got to be honest with yourself and honest with your girl, and let her know what you need in order to recover. And yeah, it'd be a difficult conversation to have. I wouldn't want to have that conversation with a girlfriend saying, "Hey, stop sending me sexy pictures" or whatever. But if that's necessary for you because you can't handle it, then you have to make that step. There's a lot of privileges in our lives that we see as needs. Like some people see like having a smartphone as a need, but really for most of us it's a privilege. And if we can't handle that privilege, then we shouldn't have that privilege. At some point in the future, we might be able to handle it again. But we have to be honest with ourselves about that. Salmo says, I skipped his question. He says, I repeat, I don't have problems with porn as much as jerking off hardcore. I managed to ejaculate by masturbating, but with my girl I have problem because of less intensive feeling. Solution? ? Yeah, it sounds like you have some desensitization and you've been overly conditioned to your own touch and not so much used to the touch of someone else or the feeling of actual sex. The solution for that, the quickest solution for that, is to stop masturbating and only allow yourself orgasm with the kind of stimulation that you want to be able to reach orgasm from. And that means that sometimes you just will have sex and not reach orgasm, which might be frustrating in the moment, but that will push your body to adapt and to become more sensitive more quickly. And sorry, I'm going to be skipping some questions and missing some questions. There's too many questions to answer. If you want to be sure that your question gets answered, then you can use that super chat feature. That's why I put it in. So if you have something really important, you can get it answered. And yeah, if you want to work with me personally, as always, you can go to addictedtointernetporn.com. That's addictedtointernetporn.com, and find ways to work with me personally, either over email or a video call, just us two, or a phone call. Vic asks, is it more correct to define porn addiction as porn dependency for teens like me, where we have literally grown up only masturbating with porn? I had no trouble leaving porn, but rather masturbation. I mean, addiction is a word that not all medical professionals or clinicians or therapists even use at all, even with substances. Sometimes it's compulsivity is a word that they use. I do use the word addiction in the addiction model, but not everyone who uses porn is a porn addict, and not everyone who develops a porn-induced sexual dysfunction is a porn addict. Addiction is more about you've realized that you have some negative problems that are presented in your life due to your use of whatever it is, let's say porn, and you've committed to either reducing your use or ceasing your use of pornography, and you found yourself unable to keep your own promise to yourself, unable to control your behavior for a period of 6 months or more, generally. And if all those things apply, then you're probably struggling with addiction to some degree. But as for you, it says you said you had no problem leaving behind pornography, so you're probably not addicted to porn. But you did have trouble leaving behind masturbation, which I wouldn't necessarily say that means you're addicted to masturbation. I don't know if it's causing significant negative problems in your life. If it is, then maybe you might be struggling with masturbation addiction, which certainly is a thing. But you might just be a horny teenager, and it's perfectly normal. Citrix asks, hey Noah, can I masturbate one time a week, or is it really bad? I hope not. That's a very individual question, and I would need to know you a lot better to say. For most people, if they're masturbating pornography free and they're not forcing it, they're using gentle stimulation with lubrication and realistic fantasy or no fantasy at all, then one time a week masturbation is not going to be a problem. But for some of us, especially in certain periods of our recovery, that might hold us back. That might be damaging. For other people, they might be very sensitive to orgasm and have orgasm hangover effects, and so that might not be the best for them. So it really depends on the individual, but generally, no, that won't be a problem. Ayaz asks, I eat a lot of non-veg, and currently I am on my reboot. Just wanted to ask you, does that slow down the process or affect the immunity? Being vegan helps, ? You don't need to be vegan in order to recover from these things. Just being generally healthy and fit is going to help. But you can be unhealthy. You can just eat junk food all day and still get an erection if you're still relatively young. So it's not necessary to be vegan or even just eat a relatively healthy diet in order to recover, but it can help. Yeah. 163 streak from Kamal. Keep fighting. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your success with us. Nicholas Rosario asks, how do you get past the fear of not recovering, having doubts like this? What I tell people in recovery is if you can get to the point where you're absolutely sure and committed 100% to a porn-free life, that you're never going to allow porn into your life again, if you can get to that point, then it can help. Because then when the possibility comes up, you just laugh at it and move on about your day. but it's not necessary to be at that point in order to recover. For some people, they can't emotionally get there right now. Maybe all they can do is be porn free for the next 10 minutes or the next hour or just today. And that's fine. Just focus on the present, do what you can in the present moment, and allow time and patience to work their magic. Simon, hi from Brighton, UK. Hi. Yeah, the chat sometimes jumps around when a lot of people post new ones, so I'm definitely going to be missing some questions. Just looking for the more interesting ones that I haven't already answered in very similar forms now. Since we're coming up to the end, I'll probably do this for another 15 minutes. Again, I do these now on a monthly basis, so look for the next one. And if you want more personal help before then, you can find me, Noah, at coachchurch.com is my email address. Addictedtointernetporn.com is my website. You can find the free PDF of my book there just by subscribing to my newsletter. It has all the foundational essential information. Probably answer a lot of your questions if you haven't read it yet. So look to that first. Zaati says, hi Noah, 1 year clean, forever clean basically, because now I have full erections, but don't have the fire to fap. I am more stoic and using it for the real world. Well, congratulations, sir. Thanks for being here anyway, even though you're not struggling. Citrix asks, yeah, your name is hard to say. Hey Noah, I have a question. I've been having problems with productivity every time after I orgasm, and it clearly affects me days after the orgasm. Is this the depression or is it porn? So it sounds like it's not just after orgasm, but after orgasm to porn, which can be a very different thing. Like I said, some people can experience orgasm hangover, even if it's to sex or porn-free masturbation. But it sounds like yours is after pornography-induced orgasm. And yeah, that's pretty common to have that because it's very powerful stimulation to use internet pornography, and it can overload our sexual response system and leave us feeling some brain fog, some depression, lack of energy. So yeah, it can definitely be due to that porn use, especially if you're noticing it happening in the few days after you use. Maxime says, I did 90 days, but still have a lot of performance anxiety and trouble keeping erections. That twofold. 90 days, not enough for most people to heal fully, physically and neurologically. So you still need more time, but also performance anxiety can definitely hold you back, even if you're physically ready for sex. So working on performance anxiety, the most effective thing is going to be having a partner you can feel comfortable with, you can trust, you can talk to. Second to that, just reassuring yourself in, like, if it's a more casual encounter, that you can take your time, you can sort of set the pace, and you don't have to feel pressured to perform right away. Just take it slow. Take off one article of clothing at a time, go back to kissing. You could be there hours before you're actually having sex. So if you're able to calm yourself down and slow things down and set the pace, that can really help. Lantidis says, hey Noah, I'm clean for 10 months now, trying to fix my PIED. Question is, the first few times I tried to have sex, I was able to finish orally, yet I think I wasn't hard enough for penetration. Is that normal? Yeah, it can be normal. You might still need more rewiring in order to get your body and your brain and yourself emotionally used to real sex. And you might need more time to heal still. I do usually recommend not reaching orgasm if you don't have a full erection, because that's not something that you want to train your body to do. And if you are having sexual stimulation with a partial erection, especially if it's rough in any way, that it puts you at a much higher risk for physical damage to the penis. The penis is much more durable when you have a full erection. John, 87, I've been trying to quit for around 5 years, came close at times with streaks of 110 days, etc. Do you think at this point I should resort to AA type meetings? I'm 23 and still a virgin because of it. Sexual addiction type meetings can definitely be a help, and it really depends on the group. Some groups are filled with guys who have more problems with pornography than acting out in real life. Other groups might be filled with people who you really can't identify with, who might be struggling with very different things than you. But finding the right group can be a big help. Having that community support, people around you to rely on and who understand what you're going through. Other things that might help you, finding the right, maybe a CSAT, a certified sexual addiction therapist, or finding the right coach. Yeah, if you're interested in working with me, I'm available. But it's been 5 years, came close at times with streaks of 110 days. Yeah, I know how that goes, feeling like, yeah, I feel like I'm finally going to be free this time. And then something happens and you slip up and you start to doubt that you're ever going to be able to get out of this trap and start to lose hope. And then maybe your streaks get lesser and lesser and you're relapsing more and more because you're losing hope. But it doesn't have to stay that way forever. I've seen people who struggled longer than you eventually be able to become permanently porn-free and recover from their issues that they have because of their porn use. So don't give up. John says he's trained his body to orgasm to a partial erection. How can I overcome this? I'll just avoid doing it in the future. And if you cannot get a full erection at all during sex, then I'd recommend giving yourself more time to recover before trying sex again. And if you notice that you're losing your full erection during sex, then feel free to just take a break, wait for it to return, have a cuddle, have a laugh, have a chat. MC Wynn says, hi Noah, you've earned your halo. Thank you very much. I am 47 and have been a PMO addict since 10. I go for a while, then relapse. How long do you recommend abstaining to get spontaneous erections again? PMO addict since age 10. Yeah, me too. But yeah, 10 to 47, 37 years. It's a long time. And yeah, I understand what it's like to be a porn addict, a porn user for most of your life. Because for me, it was like age 9 to 24 before I first started trying to quit. And you really have no idea what life can be like without pornography until you live it. And that's a beautiful thing. So I hope you're looking forward to that. You go for a while and then you relapse though. How long do I recommend abstaining to get spontaneous erections again? Well, as far as abstaining from pornography, I recommend a lifetime. But as for sex and masturbation, if that's what you're asking, I'd recommend abstaining until you're able to do those things fairly easily. You don't have to feel like it's forced or have to use fantasy, like pornography, inspired fantasy, or any fantasy at all if you're having sex in order to maintain that arousal. Sanjay says, your ebook was so helpful. Good. Glad you thought so. Whack, Addicted to Internet Porn. You can get it for free again on my website. Just subscribe to my newsletter. Tim Wyke asks, hey Noah, I was circumcised when I was a child. I never had problems to orgasm with porn, but always when I had sex. I usually felt nothing. Can no PMO sensitize my penis even if I am cut? Yeah, that's a question that I get pretty frequently again. Circumcision can definitely desensitize the penis, but not to the point where you won't be able to reach orgasm for sex. If you've been able to reach orgasm for masturbation to porn your whole life, but can't for sex, then that's because you have porn-induced desensitization. And yes, no PMO will help with that. Mr. Noski asked if I have any new videos in progress. Yeah, I have 2 videos in progress. One that should be out early next week. That's more of a funny video, and it's part of a 3-part series that's coming up. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. And then I have another video It's more traditional Q&A type video about porn-free masturbation and its place in recovery and in life long term. So those are the two videos I have on bat right now. You got the sneak peek preview here. And yeah, we're coming up on an hour, so I'm going to bring this to a close, but I really appreciate you all joining me. And I'm going to end with a little reading from Gifts of Recovery by Timothy Weiss, which is a daily reader for people in recovery from porn and sex addiction. And it's really valuable. Every day of the year just has a little bit of wisdom, keeps you thinking, keeps you growing, keeps you learning. And today's, for January 25th, says, the U.S. Navy is the only Navy in the world that routinely practices night takeoffs and landings from an aircraft carrier. Other countries' navies do not routinely practice this maneuver because it is so dangerous. The U.S. Navy cannot eliminate the danger. Instead, they create a cocoon of protocols and procedures to follow so that pilots can be as safe as possible even during the most dangerous times. Our recovery programs can benefit from such a cocoon. We cannot control every possible situation, but we can create consistent routines and sobriety plans to guide us safely through whatever challenges come our way. I hope that makes you think a little bit, because I see a lot of people on this journey just white-knuckling it, just trying the same things over and over, just trying really hard not to use porn, but they haven't developed the right systems and supports and disciplines and habits in order to allow them to be better able to stay safe when those urges come along. And so we all need those systems in place, and we can design them ourselves. We can design them with the help from people who are more experienced, but we need those, and we need to be consistent with them. We can't get complacent with them. Even after, if you're an addict, even after months or years clean, you can't get complacent, because complacency will lead you right back to where you started. All right, everybody. People are asking, what's that Weiss book? I think it's Timothy Stein. I might have said Weiss. If I said Weiss, it was incorrect. It's Timothy Stein, called Gifts of Recovery. All right, everybody. I'll see you next month. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to be doing these on the monthly. And again, if you want personal help, I'm available as a coach. Have a wonderful PMO-free day, everybody, and a happy 2020.